Hello, welcome to another episode of Film Club. I'm Chris Garner, joined by my co-host Tate in the Hour, and on today's show we'll be reviewing this week's recommended movie. My pick for this week, Still Alice, the 2004 drama film directed by Richard Glatzer, Wash Westmoreland, and starring Julianne Moore, Alec Baldwin, Kristen Stewart. Hang on, no, I just made a mistake there. Kirsten Stewart, we said this before we hit record.
The person from Twilight who everyone hates, but...
Yes, Bella or whatever her name was from that. For those of you new to this channel, how recommended movie works is that at the end of our main show each week we take it in turns choosing a film that somehow ties in to whatever we reviewed in the main show. So our last main show was Hunger Games Mockingjay Pt.2, and I went purely from the Julianne Moore link. And this was really a film that I'd heard huge, massive praise from last year's Oscars. Just one I never got round to seeing, and wow, this film was powerful.
Yeah.
And I know that's sort of a cliched thing to say, but wow, like I knew sort of the subject matter and everything. For those of you who don't know about the film, it's about a character called Alice who is tragically afflicted with Alzheimer's, and it's sort of like her, just struggle with this, the family, herself, a job, everything like that goes along with it.
I wanted a really relaxing, happy Monday afternoon, and you gave me one of the most depressing and downright miserable ones I've had in a while.
But what's often the time with these Oscar movies is that so many of them are very depressing, so it's kind of difficult to
Grand Budapest wasn't depressing.
That's true.
Whiplash wasn't depressing.
But the ones that tend to be that go for best actor or best actress, they tend to go for a role like this. But wow, and this is going to be a really difficult review to do as well, because I mean it was a fantastic film, but there's sort of not really that much to talk about it. It's a very personal, small movie, I would say, almost independent. In fact, I think because this film had two directors.
I think it wasn't.
Yeah, Wash Westmoreland's known for being in the independent scene, independent film director. So you could definitely see signs of that. But the cast in it was just brilliant, I thought, and we could talk a bit about the characters now if you like.
It is all about the characters, I have to say.
Absolutely, yeah. And we should definitely start by talking about Julianne Moore, I think, who won the Academy Award for Best Actress, and my God, she deserved it, because she was phenomenal in
absolutely
this movie.
Incredible. She placed herself directly in the character of a person who would suffer from Alzheimer's and with minor depression. And it was just incredible seeing her transform herself into this kind of person who was on the screen. Like, you could tell that she was putting in effort in the performance, but the way she acted, like, her character was distant at some times, her character was emotional, her character was confused, her character seemed like she was happy, but you could immediately tell that there was something wrong with her. And just, through her emotions, through her acting, it is one of the best female acting performances I've seen in a long time. And after I'd seen all of the, Academy Award nominations, nominated films last year. Maybe Felicity Jones and the Theory of Everything, different performance, but if we're looking plainly at acting, this was the performance of that kind of year.
Yeah, definitely. And in this film, she just shows so much range. Like, as you said, you get the bits where she's confused, and also the bits where she's sort of making light of her situation, and she's trying to she pokes fun at herself sometimes. But then, as the film progresses, and sort of as her, her disease, as her illness sort of, becomes more severe towards the end, that all sort of fades away, and the family falls apart as well, which we can talk about when we get to the character of Alec Baldwin, for example, because I know you have a lot of strong thoughts on that character. It's just a beautiful film to watch, and just performances all across the board, including Kristen Stewart, which, I mean, as you said, Twilight, they're so bad.
I'm sorry,
movies.
but her, if you go onto IMDb, the top films that come up for her are Twilight, Snow White and the Huntsman, Twilight, and Twilight. That is not something you want up against your name. And the first line of it, though most famous for her role as Isabella Bella Swan in the Twilight saga, She's been a working actor for many years. It's just like, well, everyone will remember her for being the really bad actress in Twilight.
Yeah, and I mean, she followed that straight up with Snow White and the Huntsman as well, didn't she?
I know, but she kind of shot herself in the foot because she was very supportive of the Twilight franchise. However, the other dude, what's his name? Patterson.
Robert Patterson.
Robert Patterson.
Yeah.
He said he hated the films and he hated the books and he was in it for the paycheck. He distanced himself from it because he knew that was where his career was going to tie him down. Now, to be honest, I still think of him from being in that film, but he's done a couple of films away from that just to try and draw himself away from it as much as possible. Whilst, like, Kristen Stewart, a lot of people going up to her, she's still really happy about the Twilight franchise. I know it kind of gave her career, like, a massive boost and stuff, but, I mean, even before this, like, when we went into the movie, did you think, oh god, Kristen Stewart, oh, that's going to be a bad performance, this film might actually be bad? Because that's what I thought when I was first watching it.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I was surprised to see her in the film when she showed up. I was like, oh my god, it's her. Like, why would the film cast her in this role? You know, because I thought, as we said, like, typical for bad performances in bad movies. But like, I mean,
she did a good performance, didn't she?
Yeah. I see. The thing is, it's a great performance from her. The character she plays isn't that different. She's still playing the sort of angsty teenager sort of character, which isn't that different. Obviously, in Twilight, it's a lot more sort of like love-struck and just terrible. But I thought it really worked for a character in this, and obviously you still have Julianne Moore, which is at the forefront with her disease, with her illness, but you also have the subplot which goes throughout the entire film and sort of bookends the movie, is this relationship between Kristen Stewart, the daughter, and Julianne Moore, the mother, and it's Kristen Stewart's at a college or a university for acting. She wants to try and break into the acting scene, going through theatre and try and make it big as an actress, and Julianne Moore is concerned for her because she wants her to have job security and go in for something that she sees as a better career.
Yeah.
And you see the sort of what's the word I'm looking for? The distance between Kristen Stewart and the other siblings, where I think one's a medical student or something like that, or is a doctor, and all the rest are really successful, and Kristen Stewart's just trying to like find a way, and it's that moment where Julianne Moore is saying, I want to see all these things before I completely lose my memory. I want to see my daughter have the baby. Actually, was it her daughter or was it? Yeah,
no,
it was her
daughter.
Yeah. She wants to see the daughter have a baby, and she also wants to see Kristen Stewart go to college. And Kristen Stewart's like, you can't use your disease as an excuse to make me do something I don't want to do.
And she says, yes, I can.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, that's a bit dickish, Julianne Moore. Like, give us some confidence, because Alec
don't
Baldwin...
worry, she'll forget it in the morning.
Yeah. But Alec Baldwin,
so
you know...
bad.
You are... Oh,
it's no joke to make light of this situation,
No,
but it's the only way we're going to get through this review without being completely depressing.
oh, we're gonna have a lot of angry commenters now. Just us being a pair
the
of
film does make
insensitive
some light of it.
arseholes.
It also makes people a lot more aware of it, and I became a lot more
Yeah.
aware of it after this film. And they do include things from like, what society is it? The people with Alzheimer's Society, and she does a speech to the Alzheimer's Society. It does a brilliant job of that, and I know that some film, like, you can't get away with a film being completely depressing. There's got to be at least one light moment or a couple of shining moments of lightness, just to kind of make the situation viewable, and this film has a couple of those, and I think the way they go about it is very professional. It's the kind of thing that a patient would go through and what they would say just to make light of the situation, and I think they did a brilliant job of it, making the illness a lot more aware of it, because like at the start of the film I thought, oh, Alzheimer's, that's linked to old people, but in this film obviously Julianne Moore plays a younger character.
Yeah,
so,
I think they say she's 50 years old, I think.
So it's,
and the doctors in it say that it is a very rare condition that it would affect her at that younger age, and it also is a familial one as well, so there's that heartbreaking moment where they say that your children have a 50% chance, well, 50% chance each of eventually getting Alzheimer's as well, and they say that there's a test.
So it's
And
No,
I
I don't
can't.
think it was 50% each. I think it was out. Well, obviously, when she gave birth, I think it was 50% of your children will have this.
Oh, okay.
So it could have fallen with obviously one of the kids was probably going to get it, and then
Yeah.
with the other kid, the third kid, it would have fallen either side.
Mm,
So in the end, in the film, they say one of them has it, one of them doesn't, and one of them doesn't get checked, which is kind of it shows off all the situations that can be available. So Julianne Moore talks to the person who has it. She talks to the person who doesn't has it, and she talks to the person and questions them on why they didn't take the test on the third one. So it shows off all the situations a person may go through if they have this illness.
And I mean that part was just horrible. Like
Oh
I
yeah,
can't even. I was like putting myself in that situation, like on both sides, like from Julianne Moore's perspective and from the kid's perspective. It must be absolutely just horrible. It's a horrible disease, and the bit that you were talking about before, where she gives that speech, that was actually my favourite moment of the movie because I thought that was just beautifully done. As you said, like they had that little bit of humour where she's sort of fumbling through the pieces of paper and she accidentally drops them all on the floor. And she says, "I wish I could have forgot that I just,
yeah,
messed up and did that." And you do kind of smile a little bit at it because it is sort of a little bit of levity, and you can imagine someone in that situation would act like that because you'd have to. If you didn't, I can't even imagine. You just lose. Well, literally, you just lose your mind with it. You just
yeah.
always be depressed. You have to sort of carry on, and that's what a character does up until the end, where it just gets, too much, and
Yeah.
she starts to deteriorate even more.
Before we talk about the end, can I quickly say about my favourite moment from the film?
Sure, yeah.
So my favourite moment was when Julianne Moore is talking to Kristen Stewart's character about what the illness actually is, and how it is to experience the illness. And I thought that they did that very well. She explained it to be some days it's good, some days it's bad, some days you feel like yourself, some days you don't. And I think the way that she talked about it and the way that she described it was just beautiful. I mean, it completely showed off all of the acting skills from both characters. It showed off what it was about, what the actual illness was about, and really how a person who may have it feels. And I know that because in my old college they used to have a lot of photos of people avoiding people with anxiety, avoiding people with different disorders and stuff like that. And if I had a relative that had Alzheimer's, and I do have a relative who does have some kind of memory loss, it's very difficult to talk to them about it, and it's very difficult to put yourself in their shoes. And that kind of whole scene really made me put myself in her shoes and think, wow, that would just be horrifying. But you're not horrified. You look scared, you're acting scared, but you're clearly not, you're still fighting through. And I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, and to me, sort of the most shocking yet profound line was where, towards the start, she says to her husband, Alec Baldwin, "I wish I had cancer, because then, people sort of rally behind you, as a cause and everything like that, whereas Alzheimer's people just sort of, shy away from you or just think, you're going insane, basically." And
That scene almost had me tearing up, I have to say.
Yeah.
That was just ridiculous. Oh, my God.
But speaking of Alec Baldwin, I think we should get to this character because we've sort of hit on all the other characters apart from this guy. If you want to take the stage on this one first, because I know you've got quite a lot to say on his character.
Alec Baldwin's character is a family man. Even if his wife has a disorder, he thinks about providing for the family. However, during the situation, Julianne Moore's character wants to stay in her home, feel as comfortable as possible, and live out as far as she can, tick off a bucket list maybe, go on holiday and stuff like that, and live her life for what she's got left, whilst Alec Baldwin's character is obviously thinking about what happens once she's gone and is already planning to set up his career for when she finally fades away. And that is horrifying to think about. And even though there isn't really a villain in this film, that moment, when he's saying, "I'm moving to Minnesota, you're coming with me," and she's saying, "No, I want to stay here, please, just can we go on holiday or something like that, can we live out what time I've got left so I can have maybe one last good memory, and he's saying, well, I'm planning forward, I'm planning ahead, I've still got to provide, I'm basically going to Minnesota, and that was just the most bastardy move that he could have done. And I can understand his situation, but if there was any real moment where anybody would become the villain, that was it.
Yeah, I thought though that part was still very well handled, because I agree that it was like a really harsh thing for him to do, but also they do balance it out with the scene where he does break down in tears and he just,
Yeah.
you know, sobs when he hugs his daughter. I think it's his daughter, isn't it? I think he's hugging Kristen Stewart at the time. So you do sort of understand both sides of it. Both Alice at the beginning of the film and John, which is Alec Baldwin's character, both you can tell both of them are very career driven. Alice, for example, is a linguistics professor. She teaches lectures and things like that, and John is offered a job at a medical research clinic. So you can tell both of them are well-to-do in the career side of things, and you get the sense that that might be all he cares about towards the end, and that he wants to move there just for his career, so that he's got sort of, he can carry on and advance after she's gone. But we do see him try to take care of her, and it is too much for him at that stage to do it on his own. Although again at the end, Kristen Stewart kind of does it alone. I know she has a helper as well, but I do think if they hadn't have included the scene where he breaks down in tears and he'd just gone to the job, then I think we could say that that is sort of the villain role of the film. But I think you can sort of still understand it even if you don't agree with it, and I think that's what this film does well, is that it shows all the sides of the entire situation, which is really, really good, I thought. So that's really your characters. It's a very small cast. There are other side characters as well, like the other siblings, but that's sort of, those three are the main focus of the film, really. We sort of talked about favourite moments as well, so one thing I want to talk about is the ending now. This will be where spoilers come into it, so if you don't want to hear this, then sort of click off the video now, because I think you can sort of get a sense that we do enjoy this film anyway. But the ending sets up where, when Julianne Moore is still sort of functional with her memory, she leaves a video to herself so that she can watch it when she does succumb to the disease, saying that in the drawer upstairs under a blue lamp there's a bottle of pills, and it's very important that you take all of the pills and then go to bed and sleep, basically so that she overdoses and kills herself when it gets too extreme. And there's a part where she's on Skype to her daughter and she accidentally opens this video. I think Kristen Stewart sends her a link to some photos she's had for her acting role. But Julianne Moore, obviously, she opens the wrong folder and she finds the video that Alice sent herself. And it's heartbreaking when she has to keep watching the video over and over again, because obviously she forgets whereabouts the bottle of pills were that she tells herself in the video. And I kept checking the how much time was left on the film, and I was like, oh god, are they really going to end it with this? I honestly thought this was where the film was going to end, and I do think that the film could have ended there, but as you said before we hit record, that would have been an even more depressing ending. Especially under the circumstances of how it all went down, in that she just opened a link wrong that her daughter sent her,
Yeah, and I could see the film definitely going in that direction. And it was hinting at it big time, and I think she's saved in the end by, who came home? Was it her husband? Walking in the front door, and it's the whole thing where she watches the video the first time, she doesn't understand what she's talking about, but she forgets what to do, so she goes back down, grabs her laptop, she does it a couple of times, watches it over and over until she follows every instruction. And you have to think, if she'd watched that and she didn't know what she was doing, but she still had a tiny bit more memory, maybe enough to remember the instructions, then she'd be gone.
Yeah.
And that would have been a horrifying ending, and it really does show the deterioration of a person that they may go through. Not only that, but what happens if a person's left unattended, and what happens, how harsh this disease can get, and how dangerous it is for a person to be kind of left alone with it.
And what's dangerous about that scene as well is that I don't think anyone finds out what happened, do they?
No one does.
No one brings it up afterwards or finds out. Yeah. And she does get to the stage where she gets the pill bottle and sort of undoes the cap and is about to take one, and then that's when someone comes in through the door, and
Yeah.
I think she drops the pills, doesn't she? And then by that time, she's forgotten why she even has the pills in the
Yeah.
first place. So yeah, I did think the ending was going there, and I did sort of gasp and go like, "Oh no!" Like you can't end the film here. But you know, thankfully it carries on after that bit and gives a really, really like the final scene of this film is beautiful, where Kristen Stewart's reading an extract from a play, and she asks her mum what she thinks it's about, and I mean at that stage Julianne Moore can barely speak, and she says it's about love. And I thought that was a really nice, and it's sort of at the end of the movie it ties up the entire plot of you know, mother and daughter not exactly seeing eye to eye, but at the end Kristen Stewart's caring for her, and they sort of like find, you know, an impasse with each other, and I thought that was really, really nice.
It was a really beautiful ending. I mean,
Yeah,
it completely kind of, it showed that if you do give love and care, then love and care comes back. And even though Alice at that point was barely hanging on to any sense of memory or anything, there was still love and care there. There was still something that you could have like done just to, I wouldn't say help, but just, yeah, it just gives the perfect kind of moral ending to, if the person has this situation thrown upon them, just love them, and in the end everything will be okay.
yeah, and I think I've pretty much said everything I can on this film, to be honest.
And I don't want to get any more depressed, so I'm good
Yeah.
as well.
So we'll sort of give our final thoughts and recommendation on the film. I think I would definitely recommend this film. I recommend that everyone sees this film. It's a beautifully well made, well directed, well written, perfectly acted drama film. Be prepared to not come out of this particularly cheery. As such, it's sort of one of those. It's a bit like Requiem for a Dream. It's one film that everyone has to see, but it's so sad and depressing that I can't imagine ever going back willingly to like watch this multiple other times. I would maybe watch this film again to show someone who hadn't seen it and sort of experience the film again through their eyes.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah.
So yeah, that's sort of my recommendation on it. It may seem, if you can't watch it multiple times, then what's the point of it? But it's an experience movie, and it's one that's got fantastic actors in there. I mean, Julianne Moore deserved every single aspect of that Oscar. I mean, she's fantastic, and all the other supporting cast are great too. And if you're curious to see a Kristen Stewart film where she's actually puts in a very, very good, decent performance, then watch this movie as well for that.
I would say, I'm not actually quite sure what would be better here. Going into it with no preparation at all, just going in it blind, or going in it with some awareness of what the film's going to be about and preparation, because I got a bigger reaction from myself of not knowing what was, like, how bad it was going to be. I knew it was going to be a very sad performance, but like I didn't know it was going to be that intense. However, if you have stayed along to watch this review and you haven't watched the film yet, I'd love to know what your thoughts were on the actual film itself, and like whether it hit you hard or hit you not as hard now that we kind of maybe soften the blow. But there's nothing you can really like take away from this film. It's a brilliantly acted film. It's a beautiful film. It's one you have to watch, especially if you're going through all of the Oscar picks from last year. I'm surprised it wasn't added into the best film category, but I think it only got one nomination, didn't it? Or only got one nomination at the Academy Awards. So yeah, I watched this film.
Yeah, definitely, and I mean I could now sort of cross this one off as one that I needed to watch from the Oscars. I've got plenty more to watch. This was at last year's Oscars, wasn't it? Or was it the year before?
No, this was this year's 2015 Oscars, shall we say?
Yeah.
Because it was at the very start of the year, and that was me completing all of them, so I'm good.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
That was the last one for me. I've seen all the others.
Yeah, no, I need to go back and definitely catch up on some of those ones. But yeah, so that'll do it for our review on Still Alice. Be sure to rate, like, comment, subscribe. As you said, Tate, if you haven't seen this film or you have seen this film, just let us know in the comments what you thought of it, some of your thoughts, some of your favourite scenes. You can find us at Facebook at facebook.com/cinemasavvy. We're on Twitter at cinema_savvy, and we're also on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/cinema_savvy as well. So get involved with the channel. Our main show for next week will be Disney Pixar's The Good Dinosaur. I'm seeing that tomorrow night upon this recording,
And
so I'm looking forward to that. Yep, you've sort of already given me hints to what I can expect, so I'm definitely looking forward to that because I love my Pixar, I love my animated films as well. So yeah, that'll do it for our review, and until next time, thanks for listening.